I just wanted to check before I begin if Naomi could confirm her pronouns for me.
Well, I'm only comfortable people calling me fuckhead.
I think that golf is rubbish. It's boring. I would rather carve my eyes out with a wooden spoon than watch golf.
He sets me off, and then I respond to it, and then the next 3 seconds something else sets me off. That's what I'm dealing with here. Let's have this freeze frame. Here we go.
Under new government plans, transgender pupils could be rejected
Transgender. I love her already.
from taking places at same-sex schools. The guidance would apply to both state and independent schools in England and could even let teachers refuse to call students by their preferred pronouns. Joining me in the studio is Naomi Cunningham.
Yeah, there's a thing. Should people have to call someone by their preferred pronouns? Like, should that be, like, legally binding?
Barrister at Outer Temple Chambers and co-founder of Sex Matters. And from Norwich is Felix Fern, co-founder of Trans Activism.
Felix Fern. That's this person here. So we're off to a good start. You know, you see someone like that. That's a very serious looking individual. So you know, let's see.
Okay, so maybe I'll start with you, Felix, and ask you about this. So we're talking about same-sex schools, so all girls or all boys, and the possibility that trans children or pupils would not be able to attend. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'd like to begin just by saying, so my name is Felix, my pronouns are he, they. I just wanted to check before I begin if Naomi could confirm her pronouns for me. I say her.
This is 100% grandstanding bullshit already. Like, does this person really want to tell you what her pronouns are? Like, really?
I could be wrong, so it'd be great if Naomi could tell me their pronouns.
No, I'm not going to tell you my pronouns.
This is what I mean. In like the echo chamber, this is all normal, but you gotta change your attitude just a little bit. Like that woman Heather that was on before this, she at least seemed to take things seriously, but I don't think this guy is serious right off the bat, and he's got a lot of work to do to win me back already. Because why are you asking this woman what her pronouns are? Like, just get on with it.
Would you like to know Naomi's pronouns? You might as well ask me mine, which you can ask with pleasure if you want to. Do you?
Yeah, I would like to actually. Yes, Vanessa, what are your pronouns?
Well, I'm she, her. I'm mother of 2 daughters and grandma to 4 grandchildren, and I'm she, her. But I wonder why you want my guest, Naomi, whom you don't know, to tell you her pronouns before we even start.
To show how simple it is. So the conversation.
To show how simple it is, we're completely off topic straight away. You know?
Conversations is whether or not preferred pronouns should be allowed in schools or something that should be respected for transgender students. That's as simple as the conversation.
I'm liking the dustpan and brush in the background. I am aware that I have random shit in my background because this is like a tiny room in my not very big flat, but yeah, it amuses me.
My name should be allowed in schools or something that should be respected for transgender students.
Do you know what's weird is, like, for transgender people, they don't always want you to ask their pronouns. Like, for me, I want people to guess it and guess it correctly because I guess I present myself in a certain way, and I'm definitely not perfect. I don't have a very good voice. Like, my hands are big, my feet are big, all sorts of stuff. But I still want people to get it right, you know? I don't want to go around telling everyone what my pronouns are because then I don't know if they actually see me as that thing or they see me as a person who identifies as something. Like, because there's a difference. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
That's as simple as the conversation is. My name is this, my pronouns are this. You ask someone what their pronouns are.
Do you want to do that every time you have a conversation with someone new, though? Do you want to, like, ask someone what their pronouns are? Like, when you're talking to someone that just is obviously a woman, why would you ask them their pronouns? This is not the queer fucking bubble. This is not the echo chamber. You gotta change. He's an activist. He should know a bit about how to talk to different kinds of people. So either he does know all this and is like being cocky, trying to prove a point, and this isn't really very serious for him, or he's actually really trying to push this kind of insane idea, quite frankly.
That's it. No other issues. It doesn't cause any contention.
No other issues, doesn't cause any contention, but this woman's not, like, comfortable with it already, so it kind of does, right?
For anyone that's honestly as complex and as difficult as the subject gets. So from my point of view, as a transgender person who has been through the school system, though quite a long time ago, I don't personally understand why such a simple topic is being blown out of proportion and made so that students who would just like to get on with their everyday learning should be made to feel as though this very small part of their identity should make them uncomfortable and feel unsafe and disrespected within a school.
Why would you feel unsafe if someone doesn't want to like ask you your pronouns or will decide for you? Because ultimately you don't have a right to the words from other people's mouths. And the way he uses unsafe, I already don't like that. Like, what's not safe? If someone calls me a he, am I unsafe? Like, come on. I don't know. I hate this shit. I hate the use of the word safe, the way trans people use it a lot. It drives me insane.
Environment.
Well, let's ask Naomi what she thinks of this. So the idea is that, you know, pupils will be, if it's an all-girls school, they'll be she, and if it's an all-boys school, they'll be he, regardless of their feelings or their inclinations or their gender or their identity, I suppose.
Yes, I mean, it's often said by activists on the other side of this debate that this is just a simple courtesy. All you have to do is ask people their pronouns and announce your own and fall in with whatever other people want. It's not as simple as that. If you ask me to declare my pronouns, you ask me to express my assent to a belief system that I don't subscribe to.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, we can't be entitled to the words out of someone else's mouth ultimately, and we can't be entitled to how other people see us. Like, I feel like I get misunderstood a lot. I don't really have the right for that person to see me as I see myself ultimately. And the pronoun stuff, like non-binary and stuff, it's based on an ideology or a theory or something. When people equate it to a religion, it's like, is that so wrong? Because it kind of feels like a religion. And if someone doesn't agree with it, like, do they have to play ball with you? Like, I personally don't think so.
And that's quite bullying.
So I might need you to explain that and unpick that a little bit. I'm assuming what you're saying is, if I ask you to reveal your pronouns, I'm assuming that you believe that people can change their pronouns or that they may be pronouns that they don't appear to be or weren't born as, but you may not believe that to be true. Is that right?
Yes, and more than that, you're assuming and you're asking me to assent to the proposition that it's for me to say what pronouns other people use of me.
Yeah, you're not entitled to that. And you can't be entitled to the words out of someone else's mouth. That doesn't mean that, you know, you're black and someone calls you the N-word. That's not a problem, because there's this, you know, that's a specific thing. Like a word with like history and it's conveying something like violent, you know, potentially. But this is kind of different. And no, let's keep watching. I don't know what I'm saying there.
My position is that the appropriate pronouns to use of you and me are completely obvious. But if they were not, it's not for you or me to dictate that. It's for other people. Pronouns are used by other people to refer to me, and they must use the pronouns that they think appropriate.
Well, let's ask Felix about that. Felix, at some points in your life, I'm assuming that people were using pronouns to describe you and about you that you didn't feel comfortable with or didn't think expressed your identity. And I wonder how that feels if people are describing you as she when you're really he, as far as you're concerned.
Correct, yeah. I've had different pronouns used for me throughout my life, depending on my stage in transition. I've also had people who weren't sure what pronouns to use for me. And I find that it can be both a difficult situation for all parties involved if they're not sure which to use. It's one of those very simple things. It's always safer to just not assume and just not ask. Naomi is, of course, absolutely entitled to their opinion. I'm going to use they, them, because I'm not sure of Naomi's pronouns.
Again, why? Like, come on, just... Stuff like that instantly makes me think this person is just not very serious. And if you're not taking it seriously, why are you here speaking on behalf of people? Like, if you put yourself out as an activist, you're a representation, you're representative of that, like, group. I mean, the other one, yeah, Trans Activism UK, this person is a founder of a group, you know. Like, so why not take the conversation a bit more seriously? Why not meet people halfway in terms of, like, how you refer to them and how you engage with them? This person is not a they, them. She's a woman. Like, why would you push that onto them? Like, if I was like, I don't know what your pronouns are, so I'm going to assume you're a she, that wouldn't be, because you're assuming their pronouns now, but you know their pronouns. It's fucking weird. This person seems unserious when they do stuff like that. That's what it comes across to me.
Absolutely entitled to that, and that's absolutely fine. Everyone should be entitled to their personal belief, but from my point of view, it's more of a simple grammatical issue rather than an ideological one.
So it's grammatical. We have to get the right pronouns because it's grammatical, but they're going to define it as gender rather than sex. So how can you argue with someone that genders people based on sex, like calls you a she because you were born a she, for example?
So to me, it makes sense in a school environment to make sure that all of your students feel happy and comfortable with the way that you're referring to them, whether that's within earshot or not.
Should that be for them to control?
It seems very overcomplicated to me to make sure just that a simple thing of every one of your students feels safe and comfortable. If you
Like safe, again, what's safe? What's unsafe in this situation? We're not talking about, you know, I can either pronoun you the way that you don't want me to, or I can shoot you in the face. You know, that's ridiculous. I know, but what are they implying with like safety here?
take away part of their identity and say that for some kind of ideological belief system that you cannot refer to them by a simple pronoun. What you're saying is, I don't see you as an individual human being, so I'm...
That's not, oh my God. This is what I'm talking about with the way, my chair is so squeaky. This is what I'm talking about, the way they intertwine ideology and identity. If you're not accepting my pronouns, you don't see me as a person. Oh, you just don't believe in my existence. Those kind of arguments. I think that's a huge jump. Like, they don't agree with your self-perception, and you're not entitled to their perception of you, ultimately. That doesn't mean you have to agree with their perception of you, but that doesn't make you unsafe, and it doesn't mean that they're, you know, disagreeing with your existence or something, or, you know, your existence as you think you are, maybe, but, you know, if I go around saying I'm a genius and people say, no, I don't think that's true, like, are they, you know, nullifying my existence? Let's go back very slightly, because I've forgotten some of the words.
Safe and comfortable. If you take away part of their identity and say that for some kind of ideological belief system that you cannot refer to them by a simple pronoun, what you're saying is, I don't see you as an individual human being, so I'm...
That's yeah, I can't find a way of squaring that argument to where it makes sense.
I'm going to overlook anything that makes you comfortable, and that feels quite bullying and dangerous to me.
She said bullying earlier, so no, I don't know if that's the case. And he said overcomplicate. I don't know where he's going with that either.
I just don't know, Naomi, about this idea of referring to people as individual human beings when they're in a school setting where in general what you're doing is addressing pupils collectively and saying, right, come on, children or pupils or year 6 or girls or boys or whatever you're saying.
Well, I can see that there will be certain circumstances, there will quite often be circumstances where a teacher has to refer to a pupil in the third person, a particular pupil in the third person, and will need a singular pronoun. Mm-hmm. Felix just said everyone is entitled to their own belief, and I very much agree with that. That's quite an important thing. If you require all the children in a school and all the teachers in a school to use the pronouns, the counterfactual, the non-reality-based pronouns of a particular child who is a girl but says she's a boy, or who...
That is kind of the point. It's like, what is it based in? It can't just be, that's just how I want to be called. Like, if I want to say, well, I'm only comfortable people calling me fuckhead or something, is a teacher, if I'm at school, going to call me that? Not really.
Is a boy but says he's a girl, then those other children's and those teachers' rights are engaged as well. It's not just a matter of being kind to one individual and respecting...
Yeah, it kind of feels like they're putting specific people's rights in front of everyone else, like when they say about special treatment. And this is an inclusivity measure for a pretty small, pretty tiny even percentage of the population.
That individual's rights. It's also a matter of respecting the rights of all the other children and adults in the school to their own belief, which Felix has just said that Felix respects, and to their freedom of expression.
So let me ask Felix how he feels about...
Yeah, I think I agree with her, more or less. We're talking about the rights of people to feel comfortable and safe, which I don't know how pronouns work into, because it's words, you know. But like, what about the rights of everyone around you? Like, you can't, you're trying to put one above the other, surely. And if you're going to make it into a rights issue as to what pronouns you're being called, then there's no winner, because it's just, some of you are going to put this person's rights in front of that person's, and some of it's going to be the other way around. Like, it's almost impossible to like square this, you know.
What Nemi has just said, which is non-factual. So Nemi has just said, so a girl who is a girl but says she's a boy, or a boy who is a boy but says he's a girl. Now, I wonder whether that's the way you see that, or whether you see that very differently, and you think...
It's kind of another point when it comes to kids, like, are we setting them up for like a realistic view of the world if we're like coddling all of that stuff? Like, they say that they're like Zizir and that they're genderless. Are we setting them up for life in the real world by coddling to that? And then when they get older and people start not doing that, it's a complete shock to the system, because that already happens to so many people in like queer spaces, you know, like echo chambers, where this all stuff is normalized, and this guy will ask people their pronouns, and this is probably normal for him. I don't, you know, there's a small chance he's not doing this to be a bit cocky, but in fact, because this is so normal to him that he just does it. I don't believe that personally. But like, when you take that kind of thing out into the real world, like this person has proved by asking this woman her pronouns, it doesn't wash a lot of the time. And these people aren't necessarily being set up very well for life in the real world, necessarily.
People think that's a girl. This person was born biologically a girl, but is quite clearly, in his or their own mind, a boy, and therefore there's nothing non-factual about it. Maybe you don't agree with what Nem has just said.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is something where we will simply not agree to see eye to eye. I know the sex matter.
Yeah, so like, this is pointless then, because this is just always going to butt heads, because they don't have any actual arguments. It's just make them feel safe and comfortable. Well, is the child's comfort always the number one priority? Is it their comfort you want to maximize when you're trying to teach them maths and they're not very good at it? Things like that. Like, I'm waiting for an actual good argument, I think.
Has tweeted a bit earlier today with something along those lines that suggests that essentially what you're doing by using these pronouns is suggesting that one gender cannot be the other, whereas from my point of view, that's an irrelevant matter, because with students, it truly doesn't matter what their sex is. That's something that's only important within a sex-specific environment, which single-sex schools, I mean, personally, I don't see the need for single-sex schools. I think they're quite antiquated. But
I mean, yeah, there's less and less of them. Where are they going with this? Hang on. I paused them. I'm gonna try this again. Let's try and get a point out of this, and hope that they weren't just about to say it when I paused. Hang on.
Not agree to see
Said.
I know that essentially what you're doing by using these pronouns is suggesting that one gender cannot be the other, whereas from my point of view, that's an irrelevant matter.
Well, there's a big basis for that, no? I mean, most people are men or women.
Because with students, it truly doesn't matter what their sex is.
It doesn't matter what the students' sexes are.
That's something that's only important within a sex-specific environment, which...
I mean, even in mixed schools, like, there's certain things that are divided by sex. You don't, like, in primary school maybe, but you get to secondary school, like, it was boys and girls, like, the PE lessons and stuff were, like, split between them. I think that was about it. Like, for the most part, it maybe doesn't matter that much, but... let's see.
single-sex schools, I mean, personally, I don't see the need for single-sex schools. I think they're quite antiquated. But if you have them, you need to be accommodating for any student that you allow into that school. And I...
To a point, do we have to accommodate their pronouns? Like, why?
don't believe that gender is this immutable thing where if you are one sex, that's it. And I think that if you do believe that, 100% fine, you're entitled to that, but you cannot necessarily force that belief onto others. Naomi believes that my using the pronouns that people prefer, that make them comfortable, that make them feel respected, is me forcing that ideology onto others by saying, well, this person uses their pronouns, therefore, by using them, you're agreeing with them. I think that's overcomplicating things. I think that it is respectful and decent to speak.
It's about respect again. I get the respect argument, but is it real life? Are you setting these kids up to, you know, go out into the real world? Arguably, if you call them a them and then they get out into the real world and then no one will call that and it's a shock to the system.
Speak to people how they wish to be spoken to. It does not mean that you are somehow violating your own personal beliefs. I think that's a little bit silly, personally.
Well, no, it's not. Because, I mean, if you believe it's just men and women, then yeah, you're going to call people something else. And the problem isn't people wanting to be called other stuff. It's when it starts getting forced onto people. Like, these two are just saying the opposite of each other. I don't know if this guy's, like, angle is usually just to repeat the same in reverse or something. Like, I need to watch more. I shouldn't make such quick judgments. I just, you know, I see things that set me off a little bit. But let's see what she comes back with, because God, it's hard to follow. It's hard to follow what this guy's saying. He keeps changing subjects.
Do you respond?
It's actually rather more serious than just, I mean, it's, as I've said, the rights to freedom of expression and freedom of belief of the other children and adults in the school are engaged. But it's actually even more serious than that, to my mind. If children and adults in a school are required to go along with a change of pronouns so that they refer to a girl as he and or a boy as she, that is an aspect of what is often referred to as social transition. And as Hilary Cass has said in her interim report, into the treatment of...
Oh, the Cass report, I need to look through that at some point. There's so much like shit around that. It's gonna be like boring as fuck though. Yeah, anyway.
Gender distress in young people. That's a very serious intervention in itself. It's something that's capable of entrenching gender distress in a young person and making it much harder for them to go back if they've gone through a phase of thinking that they are the opposite sex.
That's a good point. Like, so if someone's taking on pronouns and we're taking that as like part of a social transition, like, just confirming that constantly, if they kind of, if they kind of come out of that later in life, let's say they went on testosterone and then detransitioned, does that mean that part of the blame is on the people that went along with that to that degree? It's kind of something I wonder about.
If they've required everybody around them to pretend that they are the opposite sex and everyone around them has indulged that, it's going to make it much more difficult for them to row back.
Okay, I'm going to give Felix the final word on this, because Felix has lived this and so, you know, really does have experience of how it feels.
Trust me, someone being trans does not mean that they have like good opinions on this.
Do you think that that is true, that if you identify, if you're a girl, born a girl, biologically a girl, you identify as a boy as a child, so you're still of school age, and everybody starts to call you he and him, and then you have second thoughts and think, gosh, I did feel like that, but I was 11 and now I'm 15, actually I feel a bit different. And I know it's not at all the same, but I remember at school there were various people at my school who were most definitely gay at school. It was kind of all the rage at the time, actually, and then we all got to university and suddenly they were.
Yeah, is that not a little bit what's going on now? Come on.
And, you know, so they had rethought whatever their sexual inclinations were. Actually, if you were the other way around as well, they were very...
That's a huge thing about the kids thing, is that kids go through phases. I went through a phase like that. I've been through multiple, in fact. Like, fuck, it's so much more complicated. And maybe there is a case that we shouldn't necessarily... Where was it all the rage to be gay? I mean, this person's talking about like years and years and years ago, like when she was at school, you know.
Straight at school and suddenly got gay at university. You know, people can
So I imagine she went to school in like the 60s or 70s or something. I would have thought. I don't know how old she is.
change. Things do fluctuate and are fluid. Would you agree that if you have been called by different pronouns because you ask people to, and then you want to, as it's just been described, as Naomi describes it, row back on that choice, it makes it more difficult? Or do you think you just simply say, you know, I thought I was this, but now I think I'm this? Everybody's changed and it's not that much of a big deal.
I can tell you firsthand that that's categorically not correct. So I use the pronouns he, they, because I did for a very long time identify as binary transmasculine. So I used only he, him pronouns. I came out as trans when I was 13. That was 21 years ago. I no longer identify that way. I now identify as non-binary.
No, non-binary.
Changing.
Let me get that
firsthand
question
that
one
that's
time.
Fluid. Would you agree that if you have been called by different pronouns...
It'd be hard to row back. I think the insinuation being that they could end up going through a transition that is then inappropriate. And I guess he's saying, well, I changed my gender identity. Like, I changed my pronouns.
Because you ask people to, and then you want to, as it's just been described, as Naomi describes it, row back on that choice, it makes it more difficult? Or do you think you just simply say, you know, I thought I was this, but now I think I'm this? Everybody's changed and it's not that much of a big deal.
I can tell you firsthand that that's categorically not correct. So I use the pronouns he, they, because I did for a very long time identify as binary transmasculine. So I used only he, him pronouns. I came out as trans. Good morning, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Every time I pause a fucking video, I'm just going to go back. He, they.
I identify as binary transmasculine. So I used only he, him pronouns. I came out as trans when I was 13. That was 21 years ago. I no longer identify that way. I now identify as non-binary.
So this person... Hang on.
13. That was 21 years ago.
They're about 35. Yikes.
I no longer identify that way. I now identify as non-binary. Changing those has not been difficult for me. I've had...
Yeah, but are you just not just hopping on the newest thing, like the newest trend?
Had moments in my life where I thought perhaps I want to change entirely. And I've dabbled with it and I've experimented with it. And it's been fine and it has not harmed me deeply. And I fully support people who do get to the stage where they wish to go back.
So that guy was talking about, it was trans in schools, but it went off the rails. I don't think they really... It feels like the woman he was talking to engaged and then... Fuck, it's so confusing, this person. Like, you Mr. or Mrs. Oh my god, I need to see that at some point. Fuck, I wasn't going to watch that. Fuck, that was a weird debate. I don't feel like I learned anything. We'll go on to the next one, because the next one is another trans sports one and a bit more... I want to say fun, but I'm not gonna enjoy this, I don't think. This is someone called... I disliked it. Fuck. I'm showing my hand too much. I need to stop pre-watching these, but I don't watch these off stream thinking, oh, this is gonna be content. I'm just wondering what these people are up to. And then I watch them and it's like, a lot of the time, this is not activism that I personally am down with. And like, this person again is older than me in their mid-30s. Like, they acted a bit cocky in the last one. I think this one is way worse though. And maybe I'm highlighting a point here that we gotta think about how we talk to people that aren't in the in-group. But yeah, this one is actually about sport. This is, you'll see, because this is their own video. 264 views. They've got 382 subscribers, which is more than I have. I have like 100 on my YouTube. I need to make a new YouTube, so yeah, this is about trans people in golf.
Hi, good morning. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Are you a golfer?
I am not, I confess.
Well, we've got a golfer in the United States called Hailey Davidson, and she would like to play golf with women. Does she have an unfair advantage because she was born a male?
Why would she have an unfair advantage?
Okay, so not answering, not giving his personal take, asking why she would, okay.
respiratory strength, lung capacity, muscle mass.
Are you?
Have they got history? This guy is not up for this at all. Has he? Either he's been taking calls for a little bit, or these two have history, or he just saw the look on this person. Like, I don't know.
Aware of the effects of hormone replacement therapy?
Yeah, it makes you weaker physically, muscularly, and in a
See, I find this guy completely unserious. He's grinning there, like leading him down a certain way, like instead of really talking normally. I don't know. I already feel like this person is not serious.
respiratory way. That's
Yes,
some
so
of it, isn't it?
you've just attempted to give the reasons as to why she might have an advantage, and then explained why she doesn't have an advantage.
So she doesn't have an advantage because she's taken HRT. You can't fucking say that. That is not true. Like, Jesus Christ.
I think that sums it up
What
quite
a,
well.
no, but what a, okay, well, Felix, I'm glad.
That's completely untrue. Like, there is no studies showing that the advantage completely gets nullified by HRT. That is just not true. This person is saying untruths. The other person we watched at least was willing to admit towards the end, after playing defense for a whole bunch of dumb arguments, that yeah, there probably is more data needed. This person is going way harder and like grinning his fucking ass off while doing it. This person older than me, fucking hell.
I passed my examination. But how about this? How about if you have been able to train as...
And the worst thing is, I don't think he knows that much about it, so he's accepting this. It's not even true. If you even look into it and look at the data and the fact that we haven't concluded when and where the advantage is like brought down to a point where it's fair. But he's kind of mentioning, you know, if you train as a man, you're able to train harder and stuff. I mean, it's a valid point. I don't know how much it affects it, truthfully. It's difficult to measure. So I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this particular question. But
before having the therapy that you talk about and having the advantages of being born...
There we go. I'm not biased.
...male and having had those advantages during many years potentially of training, you've gained those advantages. So when it comes to a point of competition, you've had those advantages for a while, and then that's what do you make of that?
I think that she doesn't have those advantages anymore.
The question is more whether she's retained any of the advantages from that.
No, but what if you've gained from that situation in the past?
To my knowledge, there isn't any magical secret training that men receive over women, so I don't.
The point is, men can train harder than women, right?
Believe that she has any magical
advantage.
If
you
This person is not serious. I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to be judging people that quickly. This person is not fucking serious. Like, come on.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, totally. Like, Jesus Christ.
In sport,
this person, by the way, runs Trans Activism UK. This is like an activism group or whatever. This person runs, so they should be taking it at least a little bit seriously. It doesn't come across that they are to me.
For instance, Leah Thomas, the NCAA swimmer, who was male until transitioning.
Yeah, me too. Trust me.
Leah is physically bigger and stronger and trained as a bigger, stronger athlete, and therefore gained advantages from that maleness. And then suddenly becomes, it's not suddenly, but does become female, declares female, is female, that person has a physical advantage, whether you like it or not.
A lot of cisgender women who play sports never have their chromosomes tested, so we have no idea what advantages they may physically have.
Their chromosomes tested, so we don't know what advantages they may have. What are they insinuating that we should test all cis people to check that they are in fact cis? Yeah, they get tested for tons of stuff. I mean, I'm trying to make an A to B from what this person's saying, and I'm really
have.
I'm really struggling.
It could also be women with, for example, PCOS, who have a different hormonal balance. They may have higher levels of testosterone, which can result in not just things like facial hair, but also a different way in the muscle and fat redistribution.
What was that called, Felix?
PCOS, so polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Oh, yes.
Do you believe that women with PCOS have an advantage over other women in sport?
So the big problem here is going to be that they weren't born as men. And you've got men coming into a sport, changing over and saying they should be competing with women when they have an advantage if they were to stay male.
But they were born female.
Okay.
Yes?
You answer the question.
No, they were born female.
Answer the question, why? What's the point? It's not the same. It's just not the same. Like, yeah, potentially there is an advantage from that, but they were born female. Like, fuck.
With PCOS, which means they have a different hormonal
I know what polycystic
balance.
ovaries are.
Cool. So do you think they have a different advantage in sport?
I don't know.
So they have a different hormonal balance, same as trans women. However, I would actually argue that trans women have, by the time that they are qualified in sport and assessed by the association, have a similar hormonal balance to their cis women counterparts. Therefore, they don't have a difference.
Therefore, they don't have a difference. Okay, first off, that is not that is not correct. And second off, this is irrelevant. Like, God, we gotta like engage with the actual thing. Like, trans sport has been such an eye-opening thing. I used to hate this subject so much, but like watching other trans people talk about it that aren't, you know, seeing it for what it is and answering from that ideology or whatever, and just trying to find any way to like argue the affirmative, even if it's ridiculous. Like, oh my God, I'm not enjoying this person. I have to say.
Is it fair? Is it fair
that trans
on
women have an advantage?
Yeah.
Then you're also.
I have absolutely no idea. Like, at the very start, I wondered if they had history because he seemed done with it from the moment. But I don't know if I would feel that way too if I saw someone looking like that first off. And I don't know if he's had other callers. Like, these people will want to go on shows like this because they're activists and they want to put out arguments in favor of trans people. It's the same shit that I'm doing. I want to put out ideas out there, right? And if you're an activist, there's obviously something you'd want to do going on these shows to try and argue against what they're saying. But this person is doing a terrible job. And to be honest, when I see people doing this kind of weird Vorsh shit, whatever it is, I need a name for it, just the kind of debate bro tactics they're throwing up instead of engaging honestly, it makes me think that they're unserious. It makes me think that maybe they do this activism stuff to pump themselves up, to maybe get a bit of attention and to get clout within their own community. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that for sure because I don't know this person. I've never spoken to him, but he comes across unserious to me. And there's too many people that give me that impression.
Assessing cis women. You cannot say that trans women are magically different unless you're
magically different. They were men. Yeah, it does happen. And people will transition for clout. It happens. We can, you know, people can pretend it doesn't, but there's a lot to be gained in certain circles. If you're in a right-wing circle and you come out as trans, you're not going to get clout from that. But in some kind of left-wing, like, queer circles, absolutely you would. And, like, probably be treated a lot better than if you were just cis. Like, this is totally a thing. And that's what I wonder, like, about these people. Fuck, where were we?
Assessing every nation have a similar hormonal balance to their cis women counterparts. Therefore, they don't have a difference.
Is it fair?
They're not magically different or something. They said, well, they were men and they're turning into women, so they were literally different. And they still are to an extent, because you don't lose everything that you had. You don't lose your, like, bone structure and stuff. Like, my bones are big for, like, if you're going to say I'm a woman, for an average woman, because I was trans, because I was born a boy.
You try to
is
argue
it fair
that trans
on
women have an advantage, then you're also assessing cis women.
Well, you're comparing trans women to cis women because the trans women are the ones that were born male, which is the side that has the advantage.
You cannot say that trans women are magically different.
That's what I was stuck on. Magically different. Well, trans women are magically different. They're not even magically different. They're just different because they were born male.
Unless you're assessing every single biological difference in every cis woman sports player.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Like, they were born women. There's a reason why it affects trans women specifically, because that's being male and then transitioning to female. So this person is completely wrong. And me personally, if I was this stupid, I would not be this cocky. That's just what I'm saying.
Person.
No, but somebody has declared themselves to be different. They are different. They become female. They transition, and I understand that they are women. But can we talk about women who are professional athletes, who are biological female from birth? Those women who are professionals and have worked all their life suddenly are being outcompeted by people who've gained an advantage who weren't born female. I'm concerned about fairness in women's sport.
I don't believe that there's been any evidence that they are being outcompeted. There's been.
They're not necessarily going to be outcompeted because there's not many trans athletes. It's the potential for advantage, and whether that means that, you know, what we were saying earlier, like whether there's a case that mediocre male athletes could then transition and suddenly be dominant. You know, how do we know that couldn't happen?
Who weren't born female.
We're going to get him from the start from that statement again, because I keep stopping him and then I forget half of what he said, because he sets me off and then I respond to it, and then the next 3 seconds something else sets me off. That's what I'm dealing with here. Fuck, I've only got 3 minutes left. It's going to take like half an hour at this rate.
I'm concerned about fairness in women's sport.
I don't believe that there's been any evidence that they are being outcompeted. There's been no sudden influx of trans women winning.
Oh no, there is.
Medals
No.
Well, there's been a few. Yeah, that's the thing. Any sport you can think of. There probably are ones, yeah. I mean, most sports, men have an advantage over women. I think things like endurance running and things like sharpshooting, I think it was, women tend to be either competitive or even stronger. But those are the exceptions rather than the rules. It's possible, and that's the problem. You've got all these, God, what was it, like female tennis players playing against like college, like male kids and losing. Like, fuck, I need to find more examples of that kind of thing, because, you know, it helps my point, and these people won't consider that. These people won't consider watching, say, a woman go up against a not particularly high-ranked male, where the woman is high-ranked and still losing, where it does happen, you know.
There's plenty of examples of the situation that I've just talked about, Felix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the ones I was trying to think of, yeah. So, like, the more they avoid these questions and don't answer them and don't take them seriously and meaningfully try and account for that, just the more they're just putting their own arguments in the dirt. And for someone like me, I do think that there probably is the potential for trans people to be able to compete fairly in at least some sports, maybe not all of them. But we haven't got the evidence for it. We don't have the data. And the answer to that surely is not going on fucking LBC and acting like a dickhead, you know? Like making the worst arguments known to man. Like diverting constant, like, fuck me. He's driving me insane. Anyway.
No, there isn't though, is there?
Leah Thomas. In women's sport.
I don't believe that there's been any evidence that they are being outcompeted. There's been no sudden influx of.
Like sudden influx, like that's a weird way of putting it when trans athletes just aren't very common. Like, no, there probably isn't going to be one.
Trans women winning.
Oh no, there
millions
is.
of medals
No, there is. There's plenty of examples of the situation that I've just talked about, Felix.
No, there isn't though, is there?
Leah Thomas.
Who is a competitor. Sometimes she wins, sometimes she loses. What's her advantage?
Her advantage is she's bigger and stronger and has had the advantage of a male body to train, and is now competing with people who didn't have that same advantage.
Some of her competitors have won against her because they also have bigger, stronger bodies than her. I think that you're assuming that trans women have some magical strength that they just don't have. So the simple fact is that.
At what point did he say trans people have a magical strength that other people don't have? What is the need to like rephrase someone's argument that badly? You run a fucking activism shit. You should know better than this, surely.
How much
Trans
sport
women-
do you play, Felix?
Trans women.
Yeah, he doesn't know fuck all about sports. That's the other thing. Like, this is another problem. Yeah, it's insane. Like, I would find this person incredibly like patronizing if they were talking to me like that. I would find that like really annoying. Like, the problem is with the sports thing, it's another like trans activist issue. But like, none of these activists play sports really. Like, I watched a debate panel, which I'll probably go over at some point. They had an actual trans fucking athlete on there. They played fucking disc golf, whatever the fuck that is. Like, really? Like, most of these people just don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but they make it a rights issue and they just have to push the inclusivity thing and just deny everything they say. Like, debating is so fucking easy if all you do is take your ideology and just argue against everything the other person says, just contradict everything they say without really... I've had people do this to me before, like, not necessarily debating, because this is like new to me, right? But when you're arguing with someone because you're not happy with whatever the thing is, and they just contradict everything you say, well, no, it's not like that. No, that's not it. No. Well, you know, what about this irrelevant thing? Like, you can make someone run around circles, like, forever. How is this advancing trans rights and not just making us look insane and making us look like we're just arguing for the sake of arguing instead of actually making a point? Because what affirmative points are they making? He's just slipping out. It's every time you think you get them, they just slip away with another nonsensical fucking diversion.
How much sport do you
they
play?
deserve to be included in all aspects of life.
Yeah, they deserve to be included in all aspects of life. So the inclusion is all that matters. That's the position they stake out. And anything else, they will just argue against. You know, not give any kind of room for compromise, not understand even what this person's talking about, even though he's being fairly, you know, clear, you know. It's, oh man. I've got so much of this. Because this is why I'm here, you know. I want to know what these people are actually up to and what they're actually, like, doing to push trans rights forward and how they're doing it. And a lot of the time, what I'm seeing is, like, pretty terrible. It's, like, embarrassing. And this person is, like, what, 35 or something? Like, if... Oh, man. It's grim. It's grim when you're, like, one of the people that they're supposed to be advocating for. And this is the kind of shit they're doing. Like, I don't want it, personally. I don't want any of that shit. I don't want people... You know... Fuck, what am I trying to say here? I don't want activists being activists representing us. Yeah, thank you. In that way, because it's not good representation. And for me, bad advocacy is worse than no advocacy. And I know so many people that don't understand that think they have to just throw everything at whatever they can, whether or not they're doing it sensibly or not. Like, yeah, this is 2 videos. I shouldn't be getting such a strong opinion of someone that quickly. Because the last person, what was her name? Heather Herbert. Like, I don't think she's that good either. But I'm not wondering how serious she is from the bat, off the bat. Yeah. Well, you know, maybe he'll turn it around, but...
Would you like to know my opinion?
Well, no, well, hold on a second. What sport do you play?
Why is that relevant to the conversation?
Because we're talking about sport.
It's relevant because it suggests how much knowledge you have. You know, you actually do train, for example. It's relevant in the same way that when cis people talk about trans issues, a trans person might say, well, none of you are trans, so you don't really get it. Like, does that not go both ways?
Cool. Well, LBC invited me because my expertise is on trans issues, not sport.
Yeah, there we go. So they were invited because they're a trans activist. Their expertise is on trans issues, such as we should include all people in sports.
Issues. But would you like to know my opinion about golf?
Yeah.
Cool. Golf is inaccessible.
I just asked you
Only-
what you
Yeah,
know about
golf is
sport. This is a
inaccessible.
sports story. When you were
It's-
invited on, you knew this was a
Uh-huh.
sports story.
It's also a trans story, which is the element that
Yeah.
you're focusing.
Oh my god, I said it. I fucking said it, and he fucking said it too. Like, they treat it as a trans issue without knowing anything about sports. So, like, what the fuck do they expect? Like, is that arrogance? Because I'm a trans activist. Anything to do with trans people. Yeah, I fucking do. That's kind of the point. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. I need to do a lot of this and work my ass off, I guess. But like, fuck. It's because it's a trans issue. This person automatically assumes they're an expert on that alone, and knowing nothing about sports is completely secondary to that. And to me, that's fucking arrogant, honestly.
Focusing on. You're not focusing on whether it's a sport. You're focusing on
I'm
whether
focusing
or
on
not trans people
sport.
should be included in
I'm no, Felix. To be fair,
Yeah, based. I mean, when I work out like Discord and stuff, I'll be able to like get people in more. Like, it is a work in progress. Like, I need a YouTube channel. I need to get some kind of video editor because I've done that kind of thing before, but not recently. But yeah, this might be going somewhere. Who knows?
I am concentrating on trans and sport.
Cool. So let's talk about sport. Golf courses take up a horrific amount of natural land, ruining local ecosystems.
This conversation is over, by the way. This debate, I mean, it didn't really start, but it's completely over now. There's nothing else has got anything to do with the actual conversation, you know?
There's a huge housing crisis in the UK.
What are you
We've been
talking
using
about?
those for houses.
What are you talking about?
There are more people that
We're
play
talking about
golf.
performance sport.
Cool. There are more people.
You were going to
that
tell
play
me
golf
what you were
than-
going to tell me about sport.
There are more people that play golf than there are trans people. So why is the story always on trans people and not actually the sport?
It's about
You are giving a
fairness in sport for
ridiculous
women.
Excuse. I think
It's
that
about
trans
fairness
women
in
are women
it's
and
about
therefore should be included in every aspect of life, whether that's sport or anything else. I think that golf is rubbish. It's boring. I would rather carve my eyes out with a wooden spoon than watch golf. But women should still be allowed to play in any sport, and that includes trans women. It really is that simple.
Yeah, so because of inclusivity, everything he said, everything about advantages and stuff, we should just cast that aside because it's just about inclusivity. He hates golf. Okay, I'm glad we got that explanation.
When was the last time you played golf?
Do you play golf?
Yeah.
Is it true that when golfers celebrate together, does that make it a swingers party?
So you don't play golf? Do you know
So
what
now
my
he's just like insulting it, like, and that's where the title comes from. He's obviously not. This guy seems to think he's doing well here. Like, this is good. He's like dunking on some chud or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck me.
handicap is?
I've already told you that I don't play golf, so I really couldn't care less. Or if that's
But
offensive to you.
you're happy to comment on it and to criticize
happy to
people in
comment-
it and those
happy
who
to
own
comment
golf
on trans
clubs
people.
and who compete on golf courses.
Are you trans?
No.
Oh, we've got a little addendum to this. Don't worry.
Why are you so happy to comment on trans issues then?
I invited you on to comment.
Yeah, so answer the question. Why are you so happy and entitled to speak on trans issues, but I'm not because I don't play sports?
Well, he never said you were not entitled to talk about it. It's just that your lack of experience with it is kind of showing. I don't know. You gotta rephrase it in the most bad way possible, I guess. If you're a trans activist, maybe that's it.
Well, you
Which
just
one,
had a
trans?
you just I've not had a go at trans people. You've just completely dismissed an entire sport.
I didn't say you did. I'm asking you the question. Why are you entitled to speak on trans issues, but I'm not entitled to speak on sport?
Well, because there's free speech, and he never said you were fucking not entitled to. Just that you seem ignorant.
I just wondered if you'd played it. Is all I asked you.
Cool, and I told you I didn't.
All right. Well, Felix, have a nice day. Appreciate your time.
My God. All right. I need to stop shortly because I've got shit I need to do. But yeah, Pink News covered this. Is this coming up? Yeah, Pink News. LGBT news website. Love it so much. He schools Andrew Castle in loaded sport debate. So schooled him, really got schooled in that conversation, right? That we've just seen. Kept him on his toes during a debate about transports. Immediately began firing loaded questions at Fern, asking whether they have an unfair advantage where he was born a male. How is that a loaded question? That's a very pertinent question because, like, men have an advantage. So you have to answer that question instead of, sidestepping it. So yeah, citing respiratory strength, lung capacity, and muscle mass. When asked if Castle is aware how the HRT affects the body, Castle said that he did, makes you weaker. Fern pointed out the contradiction. you've given examples. Yeah, so they stop it right there. You know, explained why she doesn't have an advantage. That sums it up quite well. They stop it right there. Like, how? Fuck. And he spoke to Pink News, like, afterwards. The conversation was over in the first few seconds of the sport when Andrew confirmed that trans women don't actually have any advantage in sports. That is not what fucking happened. That is not even remotely what happened. And whoever wrote this, what is the name on this? Amelia Hansford. This person should be fucking ashamed. This person should be looked into for misinformation, potentially. Like, what an absolute shit show. How could you possibly read that? How could you possibly watch that and write this from it? That is insane. That is fucking insane. So this conversation was over. He confirmed that they don't actually have an advantage in sports, which is not true. Looking back, the rest was just desperate posturing as he knew he'd lost the debate. Desperate posturing. Desperate fucking posturing, right? Desperate posturing. Like, what was he doing the entire fucking argument, if not that? What was he doing, if not that? How are these people able? God, I get so many of these people, they will literally do something and then accuse you of doing that exact thing that they were just doing. And it's so blatantly obvious because most of the time it's a written conversation on fucking Twitter or something and you scroll up and it's like, well, no, that clearly isn't what happened. How are you supposed to tell whether these people are genuinely thinking that this is what happened or whether they're just lying to make themselves look good? How are you supposed to tell the difference? And if this is what these people who aim their publication at LGBT people, if people are allowing people to do this without checking, without watching back and thinking, maybe there's a bit more to the conversation than that, then what the fuck are they doing? Like, how many people are getting taken in by this kind of utter bollocks? Like, what else are they reporting on like this, you know? So, Andrew Hassel, appearing ruffled, comprehensive answer, was not a comprehensive answer. That was, no, they don't have an advantage from HRT, which is not the case. That is not true, and it's not... I have watched, like, panels with actual scientists on them. They all say there's not enough data. Like, this is true. And the stuff that does seem to affirm trans people, often it's, you know, like, there was one big one that was actually quite positive towards trans people. It was to do with, like, long-distance running, which is something that I believe women have much less of a disadvantage at. And the person that made the study was happy to admit that, you know, they weren't saying this proves everything is fine. Yeah, so comprehensive answer suggested that they would have years of advantages being trained as male, which weren't pushed back on. To my knowledge, there isn't any magical secret training that men receive over women. It's the fact that you can train harder as a male. That's the point that he's getting at. And that's going to be difficult to measure either way. He's just sidestepped it altogether, this Fox Fern guy. What was his name? Felix Fern, sorry. So, bigger, stronger athletes. Leah Thomas gained advantages from physiology and previous training, potentially. And then, Fern pointed out, to criticize trans women's participation in sports is inherently misogynistic. What? Because you're also assessing cis women. That they didn't even mention misogyny. This is something that this fucking so-called journalist has inserted, I think. Like, I'm not say they're magically different unless you assess every single biological difference in every cis person. Jeez, like, there's obviously the fact that they're born male, which Andrew Castle says, and he skips over conveniently, and as does the journalist. Doesn't know if PCOS, but it's irrelevant to the fact because they weren't born male. What else we got? This is actually, like, pissing me off. This is exactly what I mean, by the way. We bullshit each other constantly, blow smoke up each other's asses instead of telling the truth. Doesn't know. Yeah, so Leah Thomas has lost races. That doesn't really, yeah, fuck. What am I trying to say? I'm getting tired, you know? Yeah, I mean, there's so many issues with the arguments they're making, and this journalist is writing down as if everything they said was completely true, and there's no further questions from any of that, and that Andrew Castle is just being dismissive, practically doing exactly what suggesting that Andrew Castle was doing exactly what this Felix guy was doing, basically, which is bizarre. So asked what sport they play, asked about trans rights, not sports, but say trans fucking sports. You were asked to talk about trans sports, like, fuck. Yeah, and then golf takes up a horrific amount of natural land, ruining local ecosystems. I think golf is rubbish, yeah. This whole thing is like, this whole thing is just fucking cringe. Like, why would you start fucking, why do this, you know? They later noted they are ambulatory, they require a wheelchair. What's this got to do with anything? You gotta get the disability in there as well. So then, well, he's not trans, he feels entitled to speak on trans issues. Blown away by the positive reaction he has received. So many cis people have said that they understand the situation better now and think that trying to exclude trans women is ridiculous. I mean, yeah, he's saying that. Whatever. Organizing. So this person who has appeared frequently, I'm gonna find way more of this because these people's feet need holding to the fire, in my opinion. Fundamental pillar for trans activism over the past few years. And that's the other thing. Like, this person is important in trans rights. And this is how they're arguing for what they're saying are trans rights issues. Not by engaging honestly, by spreading misinformation, saying that, where was it? Fucking, they literally say the same thing in here. They confirm the misinformation even. The conversation was over in the first few seconds of the interview when Andrew confirmed that trans women don't actually have any advantage in sports. That's not true. That is not what he said. That's what Felix said. And it's not true. Like, this is complete bullshit. Pink news, I mean, I've known for a while that pink news is fucking garbage, but like, Jesus Christ.